In the previous video, we have discussed from section 19 to 21 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882. If you have not seen the previous video, I have given the link in the description box so that you can watch it afterward. In this video, we are going to cover section 25 to 29 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882. So let's start the video. Conditional transfer. Section 25 of the Transfer of Property Act says that where an interest created on a transfer of property and dependent upon a condition fails, if the fulfillment of the condition is impossible or is forbidden by law or is of such a nature that, if permitted, it would defeat the provisions of any law or is fraudulent or involves or implies injury to the person or property of another, or the court regards it as immoral or opposed to the public policy. Thus, if an interest is created in a transfer of ownership and which depends on a condition, such transfer of interest fails if the fulfillment of the condition becomes impossible or prohibited by law, or is of such a nature that, if permitted, would be contrary to the provision of any law, or which is fraudulent, or which implies damage to any person or property of another person, or which the court considers it as immoral or opposed to public policy. It means an interest created on a transfer of property and dependent upon a condition fails if, number 1, the fulfillment of the condition is impossible, number 2, the fulfillment of the condition is forbidden by law, or number 3, the fulfillment of the condition is of such a nature that, if permitted, it would defeat the provisions of any law, number 4, the fulfillment of condition is fraudulent, or number 5, the fulfillment of condition involves or implies injury to the person or property of another, or number 6, the court regards it as immoral or opposed to public policy. To take an example of conditional transfer, suppose A gives ₹500 to B on condition that he shall marry A's daughter to C. At the date of the transfer, C was dead. The transfer is void. Every person competent to contract and entitled to transfer a property is competent to transfer such property either absolutely or conditionally. Such condition may either be condition precedent or condition subsequent. The former are those conditions which must be fulfilled before a person can acquire an interest in the property. The latter are those which must be performed after the transfer has taken place. For example, A transfers land to B on condition that B shall marry C. This condition is a condition precedent. Now suppose A transfers land to B with a condition that B shall marry C within 2 years from the date of the transfer. And in case he does not do so, he shall lose his interest in the land. This is a condition subsequent. Fulfillment of condition precedent. Section 26 of the Act says that where the terms of a transfer of property impose a condition to be fulfilled before a person can take an interest in the property, the condition shall be deemed to have been fulfilled if it has been substantially complied with. For example, suppose A transfer ₹10,000 to B on the condition that he shall marry with the consent of C, D and E. E dies. B marries with the consent of C and D. B is deemed to have fulfilled the condition. Thus, this section basically says that when the terms of a transfer of ownership impose a condition which must be met with before a person can become interested in the property, the condition will be considered to have been met if he has been substantially complied with the terms. Thus, it means that if the terms of a transfer of property impose a condition that must be met before a person can become interested in the property, the condition is deemed to be fulfilled if he has been substantially complied with the terms of the transfer. Section 27 of the Transfer of Property Act lays down that where on a transfer of property, an interest therein is created in favor of one person, and by the same transaction an ulterior disposition of the same interest is made in favor of another. If the prior disposition under the transfer shall fail, the ulterior disposition shall take effect upon the failure of the prior disposition, although the failure may not have occurred in the manner contemplated by the transferor. But where the intention of the parties to the transaction is that the ulterior disposition shall take effect only in the event of the prior disposition failing in a particular manner, the ulterior disposition shall not take effect unless the prior disposition fails in that manner. Thus, when in a transfer of property, an interest is created in favor of one person, and by the same transaction a subsequent disposition of the same interest is made in favor of another person, if the previous disposition under the transfer fails, the subsequent disposition will take effect, although the previous transaction has not failed in the manner provided by the transferor. Thus, in simple language, where in the case of a transfer of ownership, an interest is made in the favor of one person, and by the same transaction a subsequent disposition of the same interest is made for the benefit of another person, if the previous disposition under the transfer fails, the following disposition will take effect in case of non-compliance with the previous provision, although the non-compliance may not have occurred in the manner provided by the transferor. But when the intention of the parties to the transaction is that the subsequent provision should take effect only in the event if the previous provision fails in a particular way, the subsequent provision will have no effect unless the earlier provisions fail in that particular manner. Section 27 deals with the case of second transfer on failure of prior failed transfer. The rule is that if the prior interest fails, the subsequent interest is accelerated and takes effect, although the first transfer might have failed in a manner not contemplated by the transferor. This rule is subject to the following consideration. Number 1. If the prior interest is invalid, the subsequent interest, which is dependent upon the prior interest, also fails. Number 2. Where the intention of the transferor was that the second transfer would take effect, if the prior disposition fails in a particular manner, the second disposition would not materialize unless the prior disposition fails in that way. Under Section 28 of the Transfer of Property Act, an interest in the property transferred may be created in favor of any person with a condition that, in case a specified uncertain event shall not happen, such interest shall pass to another person. For instance, A transfer Rs 5,000 to B with the condition that B joins the bar within 3 years from the date of the transfer, and in case he does not join within the said period, the property is to go to C. In case B does not join the bar, C gets Rs 5,000. In this illustration, the transfer in favor of C is an ulterior transfer, and it takes effect on the failure of the prior transfer. As regards the prior interest, the condition is condition subsequent, but as regards the ulterior disposition, it is condition precedent. The ulterior transfer is subject to the rules contained in section 10, 12, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 and 27 of the Transfer of Property Act. Fulfillment of condition subsequent. Section 29 of the Transfer of Property Act lays down that an ulterior disposition of the kind contemplated by the last preceding section cannot take effect unless the condition is strictly fulfilled. For example, A transfer Rs 5,000 to B to be paid to him on his attaining his majority or marrying, with a proviso that if B dies a minor or marries without C's consent, the Rs 5,000 shall go to D. B marries when only 17 years of age, without C's consent. The transfer to D takes place. Section 29 is based on the general rule of law that conditions subsequent which are intended to defeat vested interest are to be construed strictly. On the other hand, a condition precedent is, as noted above under section 26, deemed to have been fulfilled if it is substantially complied with. Thus, we have completed section 25 to 29 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882. Hope this video will be useful to you. If you have any doubt, you can comment me in the comment box. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.